Dear Thay, dear Sangha, you're invited to maintain your solid posture and close your eyes. And together we'll practice a guided meditation called Our Life as Gaia. This meditation offers an opportunity to re-story our identity as Gaia. And to connect with a narrative that is larger than our human story. Come back into a story we all share. A story whose rhythm beats in us still. The story belongs to each of us and to all of us, like the beat of this drum, like the heartbeat of our living universe. There is science now to construct the story of the journey we have made on this earth, connecting us with all beings. There is great yearning and great need to own that story. To break free of our isolation, to recover our larger identity. The challenge to do that now is perhaps the most wonderful aspect of being alive today. It can give us the courage and high spirits to dance our people into sanity and solidarity. Let us remember it together. With the heartbeat of the drum, we hear the rhythm that has accompanied us all the way and underlies all our days and doings. So let it take us back now through our lives, back through our childhood, back through our birth. In our mother's womb, there was that same sound, that same beat, as we floated in the fluid right under her heart. Let that beat take us back farther still. Let's go back beyond our conception, back to the first splitting and spinning of the stars. As scientists measure now, it is 14 billion years ago we manifested as a universe in the primal flaring forth. There we were, careening out with the speed of light, creating space and time. We were great swirling clouds of gas. Can you remember? 10 billion years later, one of those swirling masses split off from its blazing sun, the sun we now feel, and our lifetime as Gaia began. Touch our earth and touch your face. That is Gaia too. In this immediate planet time of ours, Gaia is becoming aware of herself through us. Let us imagine that our life as a planet could be condensed into 24 hours, beginning at midnight. Until 5 o'clock the following afternoon, all her adventures are geological. All was volcanic flame and steaming rains washing over the shifting bones of the continents into the seas. Only at 5 o'clock comes organic life. To the heartbeat of life in you and this drum, you too can shift free from identifying solely with your latest human form. The fire of those early volcanoes, the strength of those tectonic plates is in us still. For in our very bodies, we carry traces of Gaia's story as organic life. We were aquatic first, as we remember in our mother's womb, growing vestigial gills and fins. The salt from those early seas flows still in our sweat and tears. The age of the dinosaurs we carry with us too, in our reptilian brain, right at the end of our spinal column. Complex organic life learned to protect itself, and it is all there in our instinct to flee or fight. When did we appear as mammals? In those 24 hours of Gaia's life, it was at 11:30 p.m. When did we become human? 1 second to midnight. Now, let us take that second to midnight that is our story as humans and render it in turn into 24 hours. Let's look back through the 24 hours that we have been human. Beginning at midnight and until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we live in small groups in Africa. Can you remember? We feel vulnerable. We haven't the speed of the other creatures, or their claws, or fangs, or natural armor. But we have our remarkable hands, opposable thumbs to help shape tools and weapons. We have in our throats and frontal lobes the capacity for speech. And we have each other. Grunts and calls turn into language as we collaborate in strategies and rituals. Those days and nights on the verge of the forests, as we weave baskets and stories around our fires, represent the longest chapter of our human experience. Then, in small bands, we begin branching out. We move across the face of Gaia. We learn to endure the cold and hunt the mammoth and name the trees of the northern forest, the flowers and seasons of the tundra. We know it is Gaia by whom we live. We make carvings of her with breasts and hips to worship her life-giving abundance. When we settle into agriculture, when we begin domesticating animals and fencing off our croplands and deciding that they can be owned as private property, when we build great cities with granaries and temples and observatories to chart the stars, the time is 11:58, 2 minutes to midnight. At 11:59 comes a time of quickening change. We want to chart the stars within as well as those we see in the skies. We seek the authority of inner experience. To free the questing mind, we set it apart from Gaia. We make conjectures and rules and heroes to chart our freedom to think and act. At 6 seconds to midnight appear the Buddha and Lao Tzu, and right on their heels come Jesus of Nazareth, Muhammad, and the great peacemaker of the Haudenosaunee. What now shapes our world, our industrial society with its factories, bombs, and bulldozers, has arisen in the last few microseconds of our day as humans. Yet, those few microseconds bring us right to the brink of time. For the forces our technologies have unleashed, and the power they give to our fears and greed, threaten all life. We are now at a point unlike any other in our story. Perhaps we have, in some way, chosen to be here at this culminating chapter or turning point. We have opted to be alive when the stakes are high, to test everything we have ever learned about interconnectedness and courage, to test it now when it could be the end of conscious life on this beautiful water planet, hanging like a jewel in space. In primal societies, rites of passage are held for adolescence because it is then that the fact of personal death or mortality is integrated into the personality. The individual goes through the prescribed ordeal of the initiation rite in order to integrate that knowledge so that he or she can assume the rights and responsibilities of adulthood. That is what we are doing right now on the collective level in this planet time. We are confronting and integrating into our awareness our mortality as a species. We must do that so that we can wake up and assume the rights and responsibilities of planetary adulthood. That is, in a sense, what we are doing here. When you go out from here, keep listening to the drum beat. You will hear it in your heart. And as you hear it, remember that it is the heartbeat of the universe as well, your larger self. When you return to your communities to organize, saying no to the machinery of death and yes to life, remember your true identity. Remember our story. Clothe yourself in your authority. You were not born yesterday. You know in your heartbeat and bones the precarious, exquisite balance of life. Out of that knowledge, you can speak and act, not only for yourself. You will speak and act with the courage and endurance that has been yours through the long, beautiful eons of your life story as Gaia.
time travel, that journey in time. You feel inspired and courageous, or you feel scared? It's a very um, precious and deep practice that we did together on the mountain for the Earth Holder retreat recently that can help us touch many different things in us, such as to honor what is coming up for us and helping us to see where we're at on this journey, on this collective awakening like Thay would invite us into. And we're here, and we're obviously putting ourselves as a part of that awakening as practitioners. So Joanna Macy, that is the author of this guided meditation and some other deep time practices. And David Corton and others, they're talking about this time can be the time of the great turning. There has been some thousands years of empire, of dominating, of fighting, and it's taken us to a perilous moment. And so how can we use this to inspire us to wake up, inspire us to break out of our shell, inspire us to really take a step in freedom? The Hopi elders talk about this time as the 11th hour, as a time to stay together, to help each other out, but also to be ready for great changes. It's not the time to hold on to the riverbank and ideas and the habits that we've come accustomed to. It's time to be part of the torrent flow of life in the river that can bring about change. And we also know that the river is leading to the ocean. At times the river is speedy and fast. At times it slows down and meanders through the lowlands. And if there's enough momentum, it will reach the ocean. And if there's not enough human population along the river banks to use all the water, it will reach the ocean. And so in our recent Earth Holder retreat, I mentioned a little bit about my inspiration with the practice of earth holding. And one aspect in there too of recognizing and not closing my eyes towards catastrophic climate change is also to recognize the suffering of our time, both the causes of the suffering in terms of ignorance, hatred, and greed, but also the suffering of famines, of warfare, of cities being destroyed by fires, people dying by fires and storms. And not to look away and run away and hide from that, but how to step into that, be aware of it in a way that can help nourish compassion, that can help generate insight, that can help relieve suffering. So in that sense, I think we can see the recent outbreak of COVID-19 also as this catalyst for waking up. Our world is not what maybe we've become used to, of 10,000 years of very stable climate in which our technological advances, our whole agricultural time has been. And so it's changing. So it's more difficult to grow foods. It's more difficult to find safe shelter for people. And so a couple of days ago, I thought to myself, and I asked a good friend, is the earth protecting herself with the COVID? And they responded, the earth is helping us to wake up. It's a very positive approach to it. Because we all have our habit energies and ways of seeing ourselves and the world, and we think it's normal, it's the way things are. And it's like that. But now with the virus, we know that there's no escaping the awareness that we might get sick, that loved ones might get sick and die from this virus. And we also notice that is business as usual in terms of keeping the economy and schools and the freeway going. It even comes to a halt, or at least a serious slowdown. So it gives us this mirror like, you think you know? The earth is offering this mirror to check again if we know what we're doing. And so I think Thay has offered us so much teaching on this, on interbeing, how we can see ourselves as part of the earth and not as separate living beings. Because as soon as we start separating ourselves from the earth, and then we can start separating ourselves from plants and animals, and then it's okay to treat these outside objects the way we want because we think we're special. We'll tell stories that we're special and we get to do what we want. Whoever's the stronger can decide. And so we have to ask ourselves, is that reflecting our insight? Is that reflecting our compassion? So in some Zen stories, the Zen master would say that the practitioner needs to suffer more before they're ready to see the path. I think this is what we've been bouncing up against as a humanity for a while now, with more and more fires and droughts and unseasonable weather patterns. A couple of new viruses has been coming and going the last several years, but nothing that has got our attention as strongly and as long as this one. So it gives us a chance to wake up and to see how we can continue to grow our insight, our compassion. How the separation from the earth also separates us from each other. And evolutionary, we've been kind of training as a survival mechanism of seeing people that we don't look familiar, don't look like us. We're a little bit more suspicious. So it's a training for us too, to see, now we're part of a global community with people of all sizes, all colors. And it's not the same threat as it was when we were that tribe, meandering off into the directions of this round planet. But we need training to do that. We need exposure to each other to see that actually you also want to be happy. You also want to be safe. It's not just me that want to be happy and safe. So this image came to mind that if you have a cup of water and you have a handful of salt, and you put the handful of salt in a cup of water. You won't want to drink it. Water is good for you. We also need salt. It's just too much. It's not the right balance. Right? So the time is also asking us, how big is your cup? I have plenty of salt for you right now. How big is your cup? You have any water in there? So it's also this mirror of asking ourselves and looking back at ourselves like practitioners. How do we relate to this change? How do we maneuver this time of virus and sickness, and our daily behaviors change? We're trying to change some of our daily behaviors in order for us to stay healthy, right? But also, what are the energies motivating us to do that? Is it because we love our lungs, we want to protect our lungs and the lungs of our brothers and sisters around us? Of our colleagues at work, so we work from home? Or is it because we're too scared to even think about the possibility that I might get sick? It changes this situation completely. And so when I took my mom to the airport on Friday, um, there was some anxiety coming up in me. I was hoping for her to be well, and there's so many things changing, so I know, just this, will I see her again? And I see it's not just that situation, that current event that is the source of that little anxiety inside. But because I've seen it in the past and I practice with it, I also trace it back to the little boy that was left behind with his grandparents when his parents went on their first vacation alone. I was seeing, will they come back? Seem like they're gone forever. And so because I've been practicing with that, I could recognize this anxiety and not be scared about it. It's like, okay, I have enough water in a big enough cup for this worry to take place, this salt to be sprinkled in. But then also I'd spend the last couple of days since I knew she was leaving, being there with her and for her the best I could. And in the process of checking her in at the airport, the same. So in that sense, it's also this, okay, I've been present, I've shown up, and that's the best I can do. So we can contribute to a great turning, but not in the way that if only this happens, if only this works out, okay, then I can be happy. But in a way that, this step, I have enough solidity to take it with ease and freedom. This meal, I have enough gratitude in my heart to really receive the gift of this food, even if I know that food might be scarce for some. And knowing that the unknown is also present with the COVID or with the great turning. They're also talking about it could lead to a great unraveling where we're not able to transform our hatred and greed, but actually those become forces for trying to stay alive rather than sharing and caring for each other. And so this is an area where we can practice aimlessness, not to hide or not to feel too scared and not too confused to know where and what to do. But we take a step and we take another one. And from there, the situation will look different. We're at least engaging in the situation. So I've stopped reading news about the virus, for now at least, but I decided to do something constructively. So every morning in my building, I've been cleaning the doorknobs and handles and light switches, maybe flushing some coronavirus down the drain, I don't know. But at least I see it shift my mental attitude towards the situation. I don't have to just sit here and let this happen to me. But in even one small way, I can contribute to lessening the chance. I'm washing my hands way more now. I even take the hand sanitizer at the serving table that I have been resisting for a long, long time. And so, in asking ourselves how much water do we have in the cup, how big is the cup, we also have to see how much news can we take in. Because there's so much news and information. So if we keep taking it in, for most of us, for sure, it'll be too much salt. We cannot be relaxed. We cannot be loving and compassionate. We'll be worried. We'll be stressed out. We'll be confused. And so how much salt can we take into our cup? And how can we practice to enlarge our vessel and to have a continuous flow of fresh water coming in? So that maybe as together we can be this river that can take a lot of salt without being undrinkable. So the other day, Phap led us in the walking meditation in Solidity Hamlet. I really appreciate how he introduced it. He invited us to walk the legendary path up into mountain, the plateau where the white Buddha is seated, and reminding us that Thay has walked up that path many, many times with thousands of people, sometimes at a time, but many thousands of people through the years. And so to be aware of that and take refuge in that stream of practice that we're part of, in order for us to grow our vessel and to receive more fresh water. And so it's a time for us too to ask, am I able to do it? I ask us to do walking meditation wherever we go. When I do hiking or fast walking, I also sometimes enjoy having conversation with someone. Sometimes when I walk around the monastery, I say some things. But I really try not to get into prolonged conversation if I'm just walking around the monastery in scheduled time. Because I see it gives me an opportunity to come back to my breath and my steps, relax my body, to cultivate these capacities of peace, of stability, so that when salt is being kept poured on me, I have enough to hold it. And the water is not going to be undrinkable. My life is not going to be too salty or sour. So if we recognize that we have a habit of having long conversation whenever we're walking around with someone, we might want to ask ourselves, are these the legendary steps Thay invites us to take? Is this what's going to help us in a time of change and great need? Is this how we are cultivating the space and the island, the refuge within, so that we can be a refuge for others? So especially now here at Deer Park, we don't have any open days or events for quite a while. Let's not waste this time. we can do less. So how about we invest ourselves in each other, in our footsteps? In terms of walking, I brought some friends with me. See some glass marbles. There was a friend that comes with his family to summer retreats, family retreats. When he heard that Thay had had the stroke, and he came back from a trip, he went into the garage, and they have like some art supply. He was making this big concrete slab, and put the glass marbles. Walk with me. As a way for him to send energy to Thay and the Sangha, but in terms also to remind himself of the teaching and the practice he already received, so he doesn't get blown away in the storm of emotion when he heard that Thay had had a stroke. So we adopted it in Solidity Hamlet. He spent many years at the yurt. Now he's by the registration office, and he keeps shedding beads, keeps shedding marbles. So every now and then I pick them up and do something with them. So how can we continue on our path of transformation and healing? Some of you remember the Hugo the cane. I used it for a while. If someone needs it, it's really good. It's 4.0 contact, very safe. Adjustable length. It's in the Brothers Healing Room most of the time. But there was a day when I realized I don't need this anymore. So I decided to park the cane and walk on my 2 feet. My 2 feet were strong enough. My back was strong enough to stay upright. So I thank the cane, and I don't need you anymore. So I want to use this model I used in the Earth Holder Retreat too, to talk about the 3 spiritual powers of love and understanding and cutting through afflictions. But this one is a adaptation of Phap Yum's model that he offered in a talk recently. We have a circle here with wounds. This is kind of a little bit of a roadmap, a treasure map for us as practitioners, how to go about our transformation and healing. And there's habits. And there's notions. I found this very helpful. And I see at times I practice more on the area of wounds, of really coming back in and touching the vulnerable child in me and the suffering of my ancestors, those raw and tender feelings. And sometimes more I focus on the habits of how I walk, for example. When do I show up for a meal? These small things that express something, right? And my notions, what ideas do I have about myself and this time? Because, no, I'm still young in the practice, I cannot do much. We might have that as a notion. We might even think it's true. We all have something to offer. This is one of the reasons why I love going out on tours with brothers and sisters when we go a smaller group. Some siblings that at home feel I don't have much to offer. When you come out, and in the setting of a retreat like that, it's very clear you have a lot to offer. So sometimes we have wrong perception about ourselves or what we need to be happy. We have notions. And so the path of practice here, this is to come into these zones of freedom. Is with the wounds, how to heal our wounds, to healing. for our habits to transform. And for our notions to liberating ourselves from our wrong views and notions. I'm starting to like the diamond that cuts through illusion, so we have a little diamond here. Help us on the way. Because we can do this. That's the funny part, or the wonderful part. Sometimes we forget. Sometimes we don't have courage in this potential inside of us. And so I think I've been lazy with a lotus for you, a Buddha to be. I go in my palms, but there's something there, but it's not like the real of touching that, of bringing my palms together, recognizing the awakened nature in me and in you, and bowing in respect and appreciation. So when we practice for a while, whether with monastics or lay, we get certain habits with the practice. We get comfortable in the role of things and the routine, so it can be difficult to stay fresh to it. I was joking around with a couple of novices a while ago. I say, yeah, it takes something to sing breathing in, breathing out. I'm blooming as a flower year after year for a decade or more, and still like do it and touch it. So it doesn't just become this, okay, just standing here. Maybe I just come late. I just show up last minute. We all have these habits, so it's not to point fingers, but to ask ourselves, are these habits helping us? Are they making us happier? Or are these habits crutches? Are they canes actually preventing us from stepping into the health that we're able to bring about? And how are we helping each other heal our wounds? How are we creating trust in each other so that we can share and to be open with the things that are the most scary for us to even touch on our own? I talk about this type of day comes to my mind in terms of someone that I felt very safe to share anything with, very precious. And it doesn't seem like anything would surprise him or jar him. And he would still like look back and ask questions and offer input, but always very like ready to listen. Not with judgment, not using it later on to get back to you when I do something he doesn't like. Very safe, a lot of trust. So this is the second reason why I bring these glass beads here today. Because some years ago now, I read some books and saw some talks of Brené Brown. She's a researcher. She researched into human behaviors and emotions. She's done a lot of research about shame and vulnerability and trust. And in this one talk, she shared about a conversation she'd had with her daughter, because she was doing this study, these interviews about trust, what makes people trust each other. And she was sharing with her daughter and asking her, and she said, yeah, this friend, she got a marble because at the last soccer game, she came up to her grandma and grandpa and she remembered their names. And the mom said, really? She get a marble for that? Of course. And as she continued her research, it kept coming back. There's these small little things that just keep adding up. So it's not like one action you have someone's trust or not, but it adds up bead by bead by bead. Like, this is what we talk about solidity, right? We keep showing up. We're reliable. We can keep doing the same thing. And we're able to do mostly what we say we will do. So we have the integrity of actually talking and acting in the same direction. And if we can do that action by action and over time, we become trustworthy. Seems to be a very natural thing. So trust is not just something we get because we're someone's mentor or because we've been ordained for so long or because we're the OI member in the local Sangha. We have to show it through action. And we also shouldn't force ourselves to trust someone that we don't trust. That will cause more wounds, it won't help heal them. So we also have to be wise of who we share with and when we share, but we need to find ways to share so that our wounds can heal. If we just keep it alone inside, it takes much longer to heal. If our habits were just this good enough like that, the path is long, I have time. Sometimes I think to myself I should have listened more to brothers saying things like that because maybe I had been in too much of a hurry. I don't know. But what I do every day, it becomes a habit. The meals I go to, the meals I skip, who I want to spend time with, where I go on my free time. It creates certain habits. And so the more narrow our habits is, the fewer things that we can be comfortable and safe with, the more scary these things happening in the world now must seem. So rather than going further and further into our corner, let's see if we together can help each other step out and seeing actually what habits are helping me. What habits are just the cane preventing me from transforming and blossoming into the jewel that is in my heart. I heard Nelson Mandela had say something that what scares people the most is step into their full potential, something like that. So it's natural that we feel scary. Maybe we had experience in the past where people put us down or feel jealous or someone that is shinier than us want to have the spotlight so they knock us out of the way. Maybe we have these notions, oh no, not me, maybe another lifetime later. So we can guide ourselves in the direction of freedom. No one can really force us. And when we do, life will start seeming different. And even in moments where I feel like, wow, things seem so clear. There's so much love in my heart. And they last for a little bit. And I don't experience my whole day like that. I'm sure there's plenty more to touch than what I've been touching. And so with viruses and our situation on the planet, we see that the way that we've been separating ourselves and putting ourselves in the position of dominating other people, animals, plants, and the earth herself is putting things out of balance. And one of the advantages that the European settlers and conquestors of this coming to this land had, that they had gotten used to sickness that they've been exposed to because they lived close to animals. They had like farm animals living very close to them. So smallpox and other diseases that the Native American never been exposed to wipe out like majority of the native population on this land. And it was even used kind of consciously. But we can also see in more recent viruses that also have something to do with our interaction with the natural environment and animals. So if we, in this process of healing and transformation, can also let go of our human kind of superiority complexes and notions that we're human, and humble ourselves a little bit to feel part of things, and then actually we can maybe be part of this great turning, this collective awakening of being the earth, becoming aware of herself. I want to share a story as a close. I was joking with my mom, saying like, I think I should be okay with coronavirus. I'm already part of the snake family. I heard there was some correlation with snakes. I don't know. Because I was bit by the rattlesnake soon 5 years ago. And I have a lot of respect for rattlesnakes after that, because the venom I experienced in my body as I was on my way to the hospital, it's like, ooh, feeling this pollutant spreading throughout your body. My heart kind of boom, boom, boom. Not gentle like the drum today. Even just a couple of times. And that's the only time I've been to the emergency room for myself. And I've been to emergency room with other brothers. Most of you get to wait a long time. If you come in with a rattlesnake bite, which I hope you won't, you don't have to wait long. It's like, really? Okay. 2 nurses were on me like in 30 seconds. And during the 20 hours I was at the hospital, they injected with me 10 vials of anti-venom. And they also injected me with a lot of antihistamines so I wouldn't get allergic reactions. Because I learned later that actually the antivenom, it doesn't just appear from nowhere. The antivenom is made by the antibodies developed by horses in response to the venom. I don't know exactly about the whole process, so I also send energy to the horses, helping us, heal from bites like that they don't suffer too much. And also, how can I live to be worthy to receive that gift of that discomfort, that stress that must have gone through their system, even if they can live and survive it. And so what I experienced a couple of, maybe a week or so ago, the first time I went out of the monastery on my own after this event. And I was driving down Escondido, and my senses were so sharp. I saw and heard things. Seemed sharper, more attentive than any other time. But at the same time too, when someone comes from the corner of my eye or something, there's not even like a ripple. It's just like, okay. So in a little bit, I thought to myself, it's like being led into the reptilian world of being very sharp in our senses, however we perceive, but not having a whole lot of emotional response to it, but just very skillfully just maneuvering it. And so that story also kind of is increased by my experience with snakes around here. They can stay in one place very long, but they're like so sharp, and if someone walk by, they know it right away. So this is just a gift I wanted to offer at the end of a moment where I experience life in a different way that I'm used to. That also has given me a lot of energy to continue in this process of healing, of transforming and liberating. Because it reminds me that, wow, the way I see the world, the way I experience my body and my life is not it. It's not it yet. There's also to have this wholesome thirst of wanting to grow our vessel, wanting to grow our capacity to receive the sources, the streams of fresh water, so that now and in the future, when things happen, we won't get flushed away in our strong emotion, in our fear of our reaction to what is going on. And it seems like in situations like this, many people are naturally responding in that way. My mom said that in apartment buildings in Stockholm these days, where many people are, quarantining themselves, and also elderly people have been asked to stay at home. Neighbors that normally wouldn't talk to each other, they would like put notes in each other's mailboxes and in the hallway saying, if you need anything from the store or if I can help you in any way, give me a call. It's beautiful. It's also not underestimating ourselves and each other, but seeing this challenge as a way to continue to grow and to trust that we can hold and transform things that we haven't yet had confidence to transform. And so if you're courageous enough, you can take a glass marble with you afterwards to remember and to maybe reflect on what is it for you, what are these actions for you that helps you trust someone more, and what are the things you like to cultivate so that people will trust you more. They've been out in the rain for several days and I rinsed them one more time, so I think they're safe.